Welcome back, anime fans, to Ghost in the Cloud, your anime podcast. My name is John. With me is Bridget.
Hey.
This week, we are going to be discussing the movie Your Name, and to do that with us is our frequent flyer, Blake.
Hello. I said I'd be back.
And he is.
I'll never leave.
Never leave. You can't get rid of him. It's crazy.
We actually just keep him on standby in the back room and
okay.
on cue. He's always ready for the next episode.
He's like the groundhog who's never afraid of his shadow.
What?
I'm tired.
Anyway.
I'm tired.
Yes, we're having a very early morning recording session at 1 o'clock.
John's not a morning person.
Not a morning person.
This ties in with the morning.
I told Bridget a few weeks back, I think I have like a good half hour to an hour throughout the day where I'm actually awake. It takes me forever to get up, and then I have a good hour, and then I'm tired. I just want to go to bed from that point on.
There's just that one sweet spot, midday,
yeah,
and then it goes back to
everybody's got that sweet
sleepy
spot.
again. Yep.
Awesome. But yeah, so the last time I was here, I remember you asked me what I was watching, and I told you about Your Name, how it was a great movie, and I said that we were going to do an episode, so here we are. We're going to watch Your Name. So, I know you guys usually give the spoiler warning. This time, I'm going to give the spoiler warning. This is a movie that is so much better if you know nothing about it. So, if you guys are watching this episode...
Yeah, pause this.
Watch the movie.
Watch the movie.
Watch it first. It is so much better knowing nothing.
It was fantastic. I'm glad I didn't know anything going in, otherwise it would have absolutely spoiled it.
Yeah, it is a very easily spoilable movie.
Before we get to that, though, we're going to do some anime news this week.
So first up with news, Final Fantasy XIV finally has a companion app. It's got some nice features like access to the market board, to your companion selling on the market board. You're able to communicate with other players. You're able to schedule some events. Honestly, just got back into this game. This is my absolute favorite MMORPG, and it's my favorite anime-style RPG game. So for those of you who love MMOs, I highly recommend this one. If you do play it, shoot me an email. Let me know what server you're on if you want to play together. This is just a beautiful, amazing game. I know players have been saying for a long time they wanted some kind of app to connect and just get like basic features and updates on the game on there. So I'm really happy about this.
Next up, quick bit of news is that My Hero Academia has released its third season. We have the first episode up currently. This is very highly anticipated by us. We very much liked this show initially.
Oh my god, yeah.
So that we found on Crunchyroll. I imagine you could probably find that on a variety of other sites as well, but give that a look if you're into My Hero Academia.
That came out really quick. Like, usually the break between seasons, half a year or so, like, they did not wait at all. And I know it was voted number 1 on Crunchyroll last year for viewers, and I mean, rightfully so. The show was amazing, so I'm glad that they didn't waste any time, because I couldn't wait. And so far, it looks amazing. So, last up in news, The Cat Returns is an old classic from the Studio Ghibli. It's actually going to be in cinemas for 3 days only, so you can go to ghiblifest.com for the tickets, and the dates are April 2nd, April 25th, English subtitles are on April 23rd, for 3 days only. I've seen this movie before, John, you haven't seen it yet, but, I mean, I don't think we're free those days, but I definitely suggest we watch this and do an episode on it soon, because, I mean, there's people cats. I mean, come on.
Check your local movie theaters to see if they have this available. I know because we're in the New York area, it seems to be that the list of locations was in New York and Connecticut, but they may have ones out by you, so check it out.
Yeah.
That's it for news this week. All right, so up next is our regular anime information. I don't know why I even said that. Up next, the actual anime.
Thanks, John.
Your Name is a 2016 Japanese animated romantic fantasy drama film written and directed by Makoto Shinkai and produced by Comics Wave Films. Distributed by Toho, it premiered at the Anime Expo 2016 convention in Los Angeles, California on July 3rd, 2016, and in Japan on August 26th, 2016. This I actually thought was really interesting because I feel like it's very rare for us to get something before Japan. When it comes to anime.
Wow, look at that.
Like, it debuted here in the States, which I thought was kind of cool. The movie received widespread acclaim from critics who praised the film for its animation and emotional impact, and was also a major commercial success, becoming the 4th highest grossing film of all time in Japan, 7th highest grossing traditional animated film, not really sure what that means. Maybe something that's not like from other media.
Yeah, I don't think it used a lot of CG or anything, which some anime movies use
Okay,
today.
I could see that.
So
Yeah.
I think it's more traditionally animated.
It's the 5th highest grossing non-English film worldwide, with a total gross of more than $355 million.
Cha-ching.
Which is insane.
This movie deserves it.
It does.
Deserves all of that
Absolutely.
praise.
It's up there
And
with
Yeah.
the masterpieces.
It
Miyazaki.
indeed gets that. It won the 49th Sitges Film Festival, 2016 Los Angeles Film Critics Association Award. It won a bunch of awards. This movie is well worth that. I think it's appropriate that the movie won these awards. It's a really very intense, beautiful work of art.
And it's got a live action in the making.
A live action in the making.
And you wouldn't have been able to tell that praise from John the second after we finished watching the movie.
It's fine.
Because
Yeah, it was good. It was
every
nice.
time
It was right.
I asked him, like, hey, so did you enjoy it? He's like, it's good. It's good. It's okay.
You know what I think?
I'm like,
All right,
God damn it.
I'm going to drop the description, and then we can go back into that. So, the story follows two high school students, Mitsuha, a girl from the town of Itomori in Japan's mountainous Hida region, and Taki, a boy from Tokyo. Mitsuha, bored with her life and place in the world, she wishes to become someone else, and soon she and Taki begin to switch bodies. Confused by the phenomenon, they begin to communicate by leaving notes for one another. One day, Taki wakes up in his own body and tries to reach Mitsuha unsuccessfully, and soon after, the body switching ends. Taki, obsessed with his fading memories of this girl and town, sets out to meet Mitsuha in the real world. He soon discovers that something far stronger than distance may keep them apart.
Like death.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to switch bodies with someone that's no longer alive.
Well, I mean, he was doing it, so...
In 3 years' time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the biggest spoiler of the movie, which we warned you. The body switching happens with a time skip, like after 3 years, which you don't realize the moment that you're watching the movie. You think like, oh, it's just time. It's just hijinks, switching bodies, like like a weird, like a Freaky Friday where they actually want to get freaky with each other. John's gonna delete that. But anyway, like most anime, it starts in a high school.
I liked how this started off because I didn't realize initially that it was going to start in high school. Like the way I think it initially starts off, they're adults, and I was like, "Oh, cool, someone I can relate to." Like,
nope.
Well, they do have that to
Eventually.
a degree, but yes, it starts. It sort of goes back to when they were kids. I guess late teenagers. They're probably only a few years out of high school by the end of the movie.
See, I didn't realize that when I first watched the movie, and now that I watched it twice, I get like a few other things that were like foreshadowing for events to come. I was like, oh, now I notice this, and this foreshadows that, and like this is how you find out this and that, and then blah 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 blah. Like the threads are wound throughout the movie. Things that you think are not important turned out to be super important.
These characters are pretty normal. There's really nothing overtly special about them. I mean, maybe a little more Mitsuha than Taki. Taki seems kind of like a regular kid who would be living in the city.
There's no explanation on how they ever switch. Like they never. There's never a way that explains it.
Well, I think you as the viewer can explain it as you watch. I would put it up to the comet. I feel like there's some kind of
you
mythical,
think there was like some
mixture of the comet and the spiritual like deity that the town that Mitsuha is from they pray to.
The deity or the deity?
Dedede.
Is it King Dedede?
Really?
Yes, that's
Tying
King
these two people
Dedede.
together.
Yeah, exactly.
The deity?
The deity.
Yeah, maybe something to do with that.
Deity.
Like
Deity.
her family was very close to the shrine. Like they pretty much are the guardians of it, and they're the ones who uphold the traditions. And then the same girl shouts like, "Oh, I wish in my next life I was a young, handsome boy in Tokyo."
Right.
And that's exactly where she ends up in her body switch. So maybe,
but it's never confirmed.
No, it's never confirmed.
But like, they also wouldn't have time.
I feel like it's not even relevant anyway. I feel
It's
like
not.
It could,
Yeah, it really isn't. The story of it is just, it doesn't need to be fully explained because what you learn from it is still there, and it's...
I have to admit that I enjoyed this movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
but
argument about that. However, I think because of the things I've watched, things I've read, I believe I have a very good imagination. it's hard for me to be surprised by something. And,
Right.
I figured this out at, really quick how everything was going down.
Yeah, I didn't. I had no idea, after the body switching. I thought the whole movie was just going to be body switching romantic comedy, and then they'd end up finding each other, and then they'd be in love, and then it'd be fine. It'd be, just a nice movie. I was not expecting the Shyamalan twist.
Where
it's
time travel.
Where it's time travel.
I actually had a different theory. Before we knew there was...
He sees dead people.
Yeah, really. But no, before we knew there was 3 years apart, and we didn't know how many years apart this jumping was, I thought maybe it was his previous life. This girl really did come back as a boy in Tokyo, and he started remembering his past life memories.
Right. That would have been interesting, too.
Yeah.
That was my first thought, based on the one line she has, where she says,
Right.
I wish to be a boy in my next life. But the technology, it's so very close to one another, even though they're in different parts of Japan. She still has, an iPhone or a really, expensive phone.
Right.
He has an iPhone.
Please.
Right.
It's Japan.
My point is it can't be that far apart. Because
but maybe
iPhone
she
is
didn't...
only
What if she died young,
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's Japan. They have Sony products. They don't use Apple.
That was definitely an iPhone, though.
Was it?
His phone was an iPhone, for sure.
It looked like a...
No, it has
it
the
looked
same...
like a Galaxy.
It had the same, layout.
Really?
Yep. I instantly said, hey, that's my phone.
Okay. Alright, I didn't think it was an iPhone.
He definitely had some kind of iPhone-like phone.
Okay.
Nevertheless, though, I thought the technology was too close where
Right.
it wouldn't be decades apart.
Right.
Right.
I figured she probably died young.
Yeah.
Which is something you end up finding out. And it's due to, just a random catastrophic
Trick of fate,
event.
yeah.
But the characters are easily likable.
Immediately.
And even though they're kids, they're surprisingly relatable. I mean, they're not super young.
Right.
But
they're not really immature.
They're towards the end of high
developed
school.
as people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can definitely see that how bored Mitsuha is with her life.
You could even say the same for Taki. He kind of does, he's kind of awkward socially. He doesn't really care to go out and do things. He has his close-knit friends like Mitsuha does, but living that Tokyo life,
Yeah.
Yeah, living in the big city. So one of the topics that we have down here, because this movie just overwhelms me, and I can't think of what to talk about first, because I'm just so excited to talk about it at all.
Well, then why don't you allow me to explain one thing that I didn't like about the movie?
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Okay, so let me compare it to another franchise, and the other franchise I love to death.
Okay.
And that is Star Wars.
In
Star Wars,
Yeah,
they attempt to make the main characters intertwined with one another, and it makes it seem as if it's
connected
destiny or fate or something of that nature. I like how this movie starts off, where it's just Taki and Mitsuha, and no one really has any idea what's going on, and then at one point the grandma has a throwaway line where she says, "Oh,
you're dreaming.
You're dreaming, aren't you? You're not Mitsuha. This is Mitsuha's grandma." She's just like, "How do you know?" And this is Taki inside her body at this point. And she's like, "Oh, well, I had the same thing happen to me once when I was a kid." And I thought that was such a lame throwaway line. I'm like, why? I feel like you diminish the factor of what's happening by making it something that's happened to this family line before.
So maybe maybe it's the shrine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It could very well be the shrine or this town, magical properties, but it bothered me.
I think it could be a ripple effect from that family line living close to there from the first meteor that hit. Because that's how Itamori Lake was created in the first place.
Yeah, but that was
we find out later on.
1,200 something years ago, didn't they say?
It's
I'm
anime.
Not saying, yeah,
it's
no,
anime.
I'm not saying.
They let that stuff follow through for a
My
long
point
time.
Is, though, with that one throwaway line, I feel like they diminished.
It.
They diminished the impact it has, and I think I'm on
that.
board. You got me. It's developing into a really nice love story that has legit consequences, and then you kind of just throw that line, and I don't know that line just ruined it for me.
Okay.
It didn't ruin it for me. It just really affected
it took
how
a
I
little
felt
bit away
about
from it.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
That said, for me it was predictable. That's not a bad thing. It's still a good, solid movie. It has solid plot points and twists.
Usually I'm the same way. I can tell where the plot is going for most things. I can be like, okay, so then they're going to do this, then they're going to do that. Especially shonen movies or something like that, where you follow the hero's story, where he's going to find the hermit, the secret powerful hermit that gives him the power that he needs to fight the Dark Lord or whatever he needs to do. And like you can tell how most stories are going to go because most stories are told already.
Right.
It's very hard to write something that's original anymore, which is why I really like this movie because I think it is very original.
You should watch The Lake House.
Well, I didn't know The Lake House existed, so I didn't know that it was already a story that was kind of told.
Don't know. Yeah. It's a movie probably about a decade old now.
Oh, gotta be more than that.
Starring Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves.
John loves Keanu Reeves.
He's got a smoldering, like, manness to him.
Man crush.
Strong chin.
It's like the story, but on a smaller scale, where only the guy's life is actually at stake, where they both live in the same lake house, but in different timelines, and they're writing to each other by putting letters in the mailbox.
It's literally this movie.
It's literally this movie. And then she finally figures out who he is and realizes, oh, it's someone that I watched die right in front of me in the beginning of the movie. And she tries to write to him to change time.
Well, there is a moment in the movie that I was surprised they did. As Taki and Mitsuha are communicating with each other, swapping bodies back and forth, like learning what they've forgotten, Mitsuha eventually decides, I'm going to go to Tokyo and I'm going to try and meet him in person.
Right.
And she finds him, but he has no idea who she is.
Right.
And it kind of breaks your heart a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it just emphasizes the fact that he hasn't experienced this yet.
Right.
Like, he doesn't know who she is because, for him, it hasn't happened.
Right. He hasn't body swapped yet.
But that's where he gets the hand-woven bracelet that he wears.
Right. That he uses as a good luck charm.
Yeah, it was her hair tie that she gave to him.
Like, everything is still connected, even though, like, the timelines are kind of out of sync. You both love, like, Doctor Who. It's like the relationship between River Song and the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
How they live, kind of, because, like, they both live in opposite directions. But
when they first met was when she died. That was brutal.
Right.
Then she was like, oh, it's so unfair. You've known all this time how I died.
Right. So, like, it's kind of the same way with that. It's the same kind of relationship.
Best River Song Doctor Who episode is the episode where it's the Christmas special. The Husbands
the
of
most
River Song.
One?
Yeah.
That one was good.
My God.
It was so good. Just Peter Capaldi is one of the best doctors.
He's amazing.
Yes.
I loved him a lot.
Changed my understanding.
I am so angry that he's, especially like, we're getting off topic, but his last season was amazing, and I'm very sad to see him go.
Yeah, but he went out with a big bang too.
But high hopes for the new Doctors.
Yes,
something I thought was also interesting. The movie starts off, I think, very heavily on Mitsuha, and then works in Taki more and more as the movie progresses, to where literally fate is in his hands.
Right.
And I thought that was a really interesting take, because the whole time I'm just like, well, how's Mitsuha gonna like win the day? Like,
how's
she
gonna
do it?
This?
And like, she can't do it alone. She needs Taki. Taki, like, he understands what he has to do, and I thought it was a really nice way to sort of bring the characters together, even though they weren't physically together. Mm-hmm. Just the intertwining of characters and the relationships and everything in between.
That scene when they're at the twilight hour.
Yeah, the shrine.
Deity's shrine, where they actually meet each other face to face, and they're writing their names on each other's palms, and Mitsuha barely gets a line and disappears. My heart broke.
I instantly thought
and the
Doctor
music
Who.
stops.
I know, that was
suddenly. It gets silent, and then you realize, oh my god, this is really gonna happen, and Tammy's at the door again.
She's throwing herself
just
at the door.
like the last episode.
Okay, so thinking about that scene, they said that the grounds where the shrine is the underworld.
Right.
And there, she was actually able to see Taki's current day 3 years in her future.
Right.
So it's got to be something tied with the shrine and the comet, because the first comet, that's where it landed, that crater there, where the shrine is. Like, I just find that really interesting. Like, if you don't really think about it, you could miss it completely, but the shrine is in the center of the old comet, and they called it the underworld.
For the movie itself, I thought they did a really good job of not leaving anything open. Like,
there's no open threads. Everything tied up nicely. But they almost didn't do that at the end, where, like, they pass by each other, like, 5 times.
Yeah,
and
what
you
a-
see all the scenes
what a
of the
freaking
people
tease.
that survived the impact. Like, you see Tessie and you see Sayaka. Yeah. Like you see all of Mitsuha's friends that you see throughout the movie, and, like, how they're doing fine, and you, like, well, where's Mitsuha? Are they gonna meet? Are they actually going to say hello?
Are they going to remember each other?
What's going on? What's going on here? I'm like, the first time I saw this movie, I was at the edge of my seat, literally at the edge of my seat, because I was so emotionally invested. I'm like, don't do this to me, movie. Don't do this to me.
You didn't think they were going to meet?
I didn't know. I had no idea. I thought that, like, they might just pass by each other and then the movie ends.
You know what? If that happened, that would have truly taken me by surprise.
No, yeah, I don't think they would be
for
that
a
cruel.
minute there. I really thought that was going to happen.
Think they would.
But you know, the ending of this movie is like the ending of Erased. Erased, and with the one girl that he used to work with at that fast food place, he didn't get to meet her. He didn't meet her because he changed time, and then they ran
eyes.
into each other at the end.
Right.
And it was like, oh, it ties in together. Okay, I gotta do something about this cat. Knock it off.
All right.
What are you doing?
Let's vamp a little bit. So
But,
yeah, I guess that's they also did the same story in Erased a little bit, except Erased was more of a murder mystery time travel thing. I guess I have a type of genre that I just really like. I really like that time skipping stuff.
Well, you know what? The movie definitely portrays a sense of urgency and like an impending doom.
Right.
And I think that's kind of, it's the race against the clock sort of shows and movies that people get drawn into because you want that person to succeed. You kind of know they will, you know? Every once in a while you'll get a movie where they don't, or a TV show where they don't, and you're kind of shocked, but you're like, that is completely logical too.
Right.
You know, not everything ends how it's supposed,
Happy,
how you want it to.
Not everybody gets a happy ending.
Honestly,
and that's what I honestly thought.
If they didn't meet, I would have been like, wow, you just threw me a curveball.
Yeah.
I had this whole movie pegged the entire time.
That's what I thought. And then, like, when Taki ends up, like, going on the trip to try and find her, trying to find where she lives, after he suddenly stops body switching with her. And the scene when you see the destroyed Itomori town, like, everything, I was like, oh, it's this kind of movie.
Yeah.
I had no idea. It threw me for a loop. I remember when we were watching it, and Bridget said, why don't they just call each other? And having seen the movie, I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
And then we see each of them try, it says that the phone is either out of range or not in service.
It took all of the acting skill.
Different time.
It took all the acting skill I had to be like, I don't know. Because I actually did know. And
Sweat just starts pouring down his face. It's just like, I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. Like, why didn't they call each other? Oh,
he must have had a different phone number 3 years earlier. Otherwise, she would have been calling someone that has no idea who they are, you know? And then her phone was destroyed 3 years in the future, so...
Right. Regarding the characters, Taki and Mitsu are really... They're flawed. They're flawed.
They're flawed.
They're
flawed.
They're flawed.
They're flawed.
Yeah. They're flawed characters. Wow. Tammy, you're going to knock yourself out.
She is probably the reason why she's limping is because she's doing this. What the heck is wrong?
This would make great bloopers.
No, this is just going to stay in the episode.
Really? Again?
I'm just, I'm
You left
done.
it in last time.
I'm done.
I didn't like it.
Let me tell you, anybody who wants to start their podcast, editing's a pain in the ass. Just leave it in, go natural. It's the best thing for you.
Oh my god,
Tammy's the worst.
You love her and you know it.
Cats are the worst.
You love that cat. Don't lie to me.
Demonic little monsters.
Don't lie. Don't lie. Bridget's told me the truth.
I tolerate the cats.
Catnip.
I tolerate the cats.
Love Melody. I came home from work the other day, and he was standing at the top of the steps, holding Melody's arm, and then making her say, "Hi, Mommy," and then waving her paw at me. That was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
You're a liar.
I don't recall any of this.
That was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
I want to ask, have you guys ever considered what it would be like to live in the body of another person? Because I do all the time.
I don't know if I've ever thought about what it'd be like to live as the opposite sex.
I do.
But
I think it's
definitely imagined what my life would
interesting.
be like as a different guy. Like if I had different circumstances.
Mm-hmm. I think about
Although now I'm
it
sure I'm going to be thinking about what it would be like.
What would it be like to live as a woman?
I mean, it's not just the physical changes, like they say that
which they
our
make
minds
a
work
lot of
differently
fun
too.
of.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
They
my
poke-
god,
they
that's
poke
right.
so
Their
much fun
when
of
they
the
first
physical
realized they were in
changes.
another body,
Uh-huh.
their first instinct was to like poke things. Like, wow,
Oh, yeah.
this is real. This is real. But of course, Taki.
The movie starts with Taki in Mitsuha's body, bedhead and everything, and Mitsuha's sister opens up the door to see him just fondling her breasts because he's a teenage boy. He's a teenage boy, and like, what are you gonna do?
And the younger sister, Yatsuha, at first she took it like, okay, you're crazy,
All right.
time to get ready for school.
You like
and
your
then by
boobs.
the end
You
of the
like-
movie, she's like, I'm not waiting for him going to school without her. She's totally lost it. She's gone. She's lost it.
Well, he was emotional because he thought that he was never gonna switch with her again, and like that she was dead.
I mean,
And then
you wake up looking and being in someone else's body, you're gonna probably break. I don't think you're gonna actually mentally hold it together.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
But he's like crying because he thought that he'd never see Yotsuha again. And he's crying and fondling Mitsuha's breasts, and Yatsuha is just going like, nope, that's it, she's lost it, I'm out, I'm leaving.
She runs out the door going, kawaii.
Oh, man.
Before
But
we got
Mitsuha does the
interrupted-
same thing. I'm sorry.
No,
But
it's okay.
Mitsuha does the same thing to Taki's body.
Only the first time.
Like, there's something hanging down there.
Only the first time before she realized what was actually happening.
She has to go to the bathroom. So
Right.
It's not like,
So she has to deal with it. It's amazing.
which, for them, was not a deal breaker.
Before Tammy interrupted us earlier, you were saying how the main characters are flawed.
I like how the main characters are flawed, but they're also good representations of the reverse of one another. Each of their strengths and weaknesses are filled by the other person.
Yeah.
And that is why they have such a strong connection. I don't think it's necessarily the crazy link that magical otherworldly link they have, but
It helps.
they literally fit together like a puzzle piece.
Right.
You
And
know,
they help
he
each
brings
other
out
with their flaws.
he brings out like her outgoingness,
Mhm.
where she brings out his sensitive side, where makes him more like approachable.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's really
They have
nice to see.
Great chemistry.
Yes. For
Yeah,
having
and
never
it was,
met each other.
because
And
of Mitsuha, Taki was able to make friends with the coworker he used to have a crush on.
Mhm.
He was always too shy to really approach her.
Oh, and his coworkers did not like that.
Oh,
that was amazing.
They were way jealous. And then Mitsuha was always very timid. And then Taki in her body stood up to the classmates, to her father, and made her a stronger person.
Most movies are broken down into sort of 3 different acts, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
This has like
For the
4.
first 2, let's say there's 3, just for the hell of it. For the first 2 acts, it's very lighthearted.
Yeah.
And very just like it's like a fun time.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the
It's
third
like, how
act
are
comes
these wacky
around
kids gonna get through
when
this?
they like start to want to meet each other.
Mhm.
Things do like a 180.
Right.
And
It
it
gets
gets
dark.
really dark, it gets very intense, and you're feeling for these characters.
That's very. But also, like after they body switch, and Taki starts to uncover the mystery behind the meteor strike, like he starts to forget Mitsuha. And after that last time that they switch at the end of the movie, when Taki's trying to evacuate Itamori, they start to forget each other. And like when that started happening, it was very heartbreaking because like they feel very connected to each other, and like having that kind of connection just ripped away from you and not being able to remember it has got to be
to
rough.
go back to the scene you mentioned earlier, of they're on like the precipice of the shrine, and there's a throwaway line by a teacher in the beginning where at twilight,
oh yeah,
otherworldly things
threads
can happen.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Kawatari Doki, I think it was. Kawasaki Doki. Yeah.
Taki and Mitsuha are all at the same location 3 years apart, but magically they see each other for like the first time, really see each other. And it's very emotional, and Taki's like, let's write each other's names on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
And before, like, he writes on
He gets to write
Mitsuha's,
something on her hand.
and as she's going to write on his, Twilight ends, the pen drops, and he just has a line there, and he's screaming, like, to the mountaintops, I'll remember your name, and then literally 30 seconds later,
He
forgets it, and he's just like, I don't want to forget it, like, I
I
know
shouldn't
you,
forget
I
it.
shouldn't forget it. Also, to go back to Doctor Who, is literally, like, out of Doctor Who.
Mhm.
When Rose, like, says goodbye to the 10th Doctor, she says, like, I love you to him, and he's about to say it back. Like, the Doctor, this ancient being,
Right.
he's literally burning a sun
Yeah.
to talk to her, and it just runs out, and he doesn't get to say it. You just see, like, David Tennant, who is by far one of my favorite actors of all time, he just, like, knows emotion, and you just see it on his face, and you get that same heartbreak from Taki.
Time travel.
That was
just
rough. That was so rough, that part.
Basically time travel, not even once. It always ends in heartbreak. Except this time, because they actually meet up at the end, so that's nice.
And how about what Taki wrote on her hands?
Oh, I love you.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point was to help remember. If he wrote down his name, it would
have. It might have helped.
5 years. There was a 5-year span where they just forgot. And
she might have been able to find him,
And there would have been something to
Taki
go on.
also didn't know if she would succeed.
Great job, asshole. You
got
like, he didn't know if she would succeed. Like, what is it? How does that help her? Give her something to fight for. It's this, it's this love.
It pushed her forward.
It's not just a name, it's...
Right, as she was about to collapse under the strain.
Yeah, she literally trips down, like, a road.
Oh, yeah.
Bruised and battered, and she opens it to see the writing, and she just... Something like that gives people strength.
It did.
Like, if she just saw his name, she could have just accepted that, and just been like, it's nice to know your name. Right. And that would have been it.
And she, gave in.
Yeah.
But she fought.
It has a lot of good moments.
And how about you get to see very different lifestyles. We get to see this very old, like, 1,000-year traditions held in the shrine, and this, like, beautiful scenery, like, overlooking this, like, crater lake. And then we switch over to the modern life of Tokyo.
Mm-hmm. The hustle and bustle of the city.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we have...
glamour.
You can
food.
see Taki, like, taking in the scenery of the mountains and just being absolutely breathtaking. And then we have Mitsuha, who's constantly like, I wish I was in Tokyo. I want to get out of this small town.
There's nothing to do here.
But we get to see, the ups and downs of each lifestyle.
That bit when she's walking with her friends, Tessie and Sayaka, and they're listing, like, all the things that there is in the town, like...
But for some reason, there's 2 pubs.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's no cafe, there's no movies, there's no bookstore, but there's 2 pubs for some reason.
Let's go to a cafe. And they're like, oh, cafe! And it's like a vending machine by the train station.
And Mitsuha doesn't go.
And then she was so excited when she was in Taki's body, when the friends were like, hey... let's hit a cafe. And the eyes, like, light up. I'm like, oh my god, cafe. Yeah. She spends, like, all of his money and all the junk food there.
There's a time skip as, like, they explain the rules that they laid down for each other for switching bodies. She's going, like, you take too many shifts at work. And he's like, it's because you spend all my money.
Classic women, am I right?
Wow. Okay.
Hey, now.
I kid.
Uh-huh. Look at his face. He's looking at me.
But no, like, I honestly wonder what it would be like to live in someone else's body. It'd be strange.
That is
very
true.
strange.
It would be strange.
It's very strange. But you, as we see in the movie, like, you learn a lot about someone just by living their life. Like, I'm sure there's a non-magical way to do that in the real world. Like, just what if there was some program where everyone that you know is in on it, you live someone else's life, and they live your lives, like wife swap kind of thing.
I think that was actually a television show.
Was it?
I think so. It was like a family swap.
Yeah.
No, it was literally wife swap.
It was called wife swap?
Yeah. But instead of, like, it being wives, like, you just switch each other's lives, and everyone treats you as they would the person that you swap with.
I feel like there was, like, educational programs, like, where kids can switch for summer or something.
Well, there are overseas boarding programs where you get to live, like, in another place, but you're not switching.
I think there has been.
Yeah, you're not switching into another person's
life. It may be, but, like, it's not that you're becoming that person.
No, not becoming. You're just, like, switching places. Like, I want to see what it's
not
like
just
here.
Switching,
this person wants to see what it's like
literally
there.
Becoming that person.
They swap families,
which I don't
summer.
think you could do in reality. So because I don't think the people around that person can suspend disbelief. Like, they know you're not the same person, especially considering you're not going to be acting like that person.
Right.
I mean, many years ago,
you may be a complete ass.
Many years ago, my family, we decided to participate in a program that brings kids that grow up in the city. They sign up and they get to stay with a family on Long Island for a summer, because these kids, they never really get to get out and see nature. They're living, sometimes they're not in the best financial place and they can't afford to get out there. They enroll in this, and I'm sure we got a background check when we signed up, but we had a girl stay with my sister and I and our family for a summer, and she got to see a big backyard and parks and, an in-ground pool, like all these things that she doesn't get in an apartment in the city. So that was, kind of similar, sharing a lifestyle, like getting to see a window of someone else's life.
I just think of how many social issues that could be changed if you could see the way another person lives.
I think that's wishful thinking. I think that because of the current way of life and the fact that people in power, I don't think it would change them. And that's a really terrible thought. But
no,
I don't
it's logical, and I get it. I guess I want to be an optimist, but I understand the realist.
That'll get beaten out of you soon enough.
Oh, thanks.
Oh. So sad.
Oh, life is hard.
I think that most people...
And then you die.
I think most people that would benefit.
I think you'd have a change of heart, but I don't think it'd last.
Yeah. It's fair.
I think it's logical.
It's a fair evaluation. As pessimistic as it is, I get it.
You would need the right people to switch. Not everybody is compassionate. Not everybody cares about the little person even. And if they were to switch and then realize they're going to switch back, I doubt they would give a shit.
A lot of wars are waged because of lack of understanding and appreciation for what people need. And I feel like if people did switch and see other people's point of view, a lot of problems would be avoided.
That's what I'm saying.
But in a nicer, better way, maybe?
A better analogy, way. I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a more glass half full. But I have to check and see for myself if it's half full first. If that makes any sense. I don't take it for granted. I'll really look into it, but you know what? No, what? It is half full. And then I'm gonna believe that it's half full kind of person. Not just assuming that everything is gonna be great, but giving it the benefit of the doubt sometimes. Yeah, I'm leaning on the side of optimism.
So,
and if you want to remain like that, don't go on Twitter.
No.
Don't watch the news.
Don't go on Facebook. Don't go on Twitter.
Don't leave your home. No,
they're terrible places. The internet is a terrible place.
The world is a terrible place.
But not anime. Anime is great.
Anime is
pure. If everyone watched anime,
we'd
all be better people. Which is the motto of all of our episodes. We mentioned this so many times. If everyone watched anime, everyone would be a lot better. Better off for it. Because anime always has positive messages.
Not always.
Yeah, most of it's pretty much. I feel like there's a moral to every show. There's something to be gained from it. There's a message in there. And 90% of them.
I'm gonna watch Devilman Crybaby and get back to you on that, because I've heard how brutal that show is. I don't think that show has a good lesson in it. I think that show's just about violence.
There's always gonna be one of those.
Yeah.
But I feel like just anime overall just has a great message.
What about Berserk? Because Berserk's all about violence.
Alright, you know what? I'm trying to put something positive out there.
I know.
And you're crushing it.
I'm tempering it with realism.
Yep. That's the way the world works.
Yeah.
No. Good night, everybody.
No. So, you can find this movie on Funimation. And Funimation is about the same cost as Crunchyroll. Or you can do what Blake did. He went and bought it for about $20 on Blu-ray.
I loved this movie so much.
It's worthy
of
buying.
owning.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually very, I'm a stickler for buying, having actual movies, but I have a collection, and it's kind of ones that
really touch you.
Really, they do something for you.
This movie really touched me.
And with the comment, you want to see it on Blu-ray quality. It's just beautiful graphics.
The Blu-ray was very worth it.
But, so you get 2.5 months of Funimation, or you can own the movie forever.
I don't buy anime anything. Those collection DVD sets of, all the seasons of a certain show.
I don't do that either.
I won't buy that.
It's you can always stream it somewhere. Why own it and take up the space? But this movie, totally justified.
The only reason I would do that is if it was an anime that I couldn't find online.
Like the Miyazaki films.
Like the Miyazaki films, or Samurai Deeper Kill. I remember watching that on a DVD collection, and I couldn't find it anywhere else.
Or Fighting Foodons? That's hard.
Fighting Foodons, the best anime.
Check out your local libraries, too, because this is a straight-to-DVD. They may have it.
That's how I watched it the first time. I rented it from the library, and then I liked it so much I bought it.
It was a big enough film, I'm sure, most libraries.
That's also how I found The Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
Yes, that's another one that's got a really big rating, and the preview was at the beginning of this movie, so we got to see it before watching the film, and it looks pretty funny, and it looks awesome.
So I remember the beginning you said that, who is this made by Toei Animation? Toho.
It's distributed by...
Because a lot of those transitions like the time skip transitions reminded me a lot of other shows like Digimon or Dragon Ball. I know The Girl Who Lived Through Time was produced by Bandai, and I think Bandai owns Dragon Ball and Digimon. So does Bandai have anything to do with this movie?
Not that I could find. I mean, it's not like it's an uncommon tool to use.
Animation style?
Yeah, or shows in general.
Although apparently, I remember overhearing this in a different podcast I was listening to. When producing this movie, they ran out of money. Like, their budget was running kind of low. Some of the people that made it were like, yeah, no, there's some bits where it just doesn't look that great. And I was like,
yeah, really?
What? It looks beautiful. But apparently, that scene when Taki drinks the sake that Mitsuha made to connect them together,
which was gross.
Yeah, gross
right, so there's a scene where they make this special sake by chewing up the rice, spitting it out, and fermenting it, which I think it's an old traditional way of making liquor.
I'm never drinking sake.
I don't think they do it. I don't think they do it anymore.
No, they don't.
And I think they only ever did it there because it was a traditional Shinto temple, and it was like
it was an offering to the
god. No one was going to drink it. It was an offering to their god, so it's fine.
Until Taki found it, and was like, "Yummy."
But the
just kidding.
But like that scene when he's going through her life and seeing her life and seeing the comet hit Japan and the ripple of time and how he's connected to her, that whole scene was apparently supposed to look a lot better.
I thought it looked really cool. I thought it was an interesting
that's what I'm getting at. Like,
it
artists,
deviates
man,
from the traditional like anime style and
right,
almost like watercolor.
Right, but that's because they were trying to save money. But that's another reason why I really love this movie is like they even took a limitation of a lack of budget and made it something beautiful. Still wonderful to look at. Like, this whole movie was just beautiful to look at.
Yeah,
the scenic looks of the countryside, the towers in Japan, in Tokyo, like, just everything about it was beautiful. Did we get to the word of the week?
No. Forgot to that last time too. So we definitely mentioned the word of the week like many times, and I forgot to say it is comet, which is suisei, and that's how the town went kabooey. So so don't forget, you can email us at gitcanime@gmail.com. Our episodes are always up on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and now YouTube. And you can always follow our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can always check out our website at gitcanime.com. Thanks again to Anthony for our awesome intro, and thanks to Blake for hanging out with us again on our episode.
Well, thank you for listening to me rant and rave about this movie.
And thanks for recommending it, because it was amazing.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you to all of our listeners who reach out as well.
Yes. And if you enjoy our podcast and you want to support it, please go to patreon.com and become a member and join our crew.
All right, guys.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.